Please stand. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Leary.
Here.
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Counsel Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
9 present.
Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take a moment to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Mary Frances Donovan, age 39. Mary was a member of a well-known Lowell family who died unexpectedly Monday morning at Lowell General Hospital with her loving family by her side. Mary was born in Lowell, Massachusetts, January 10th, 1977, the daughter of Brian J. and Ann T. Donovan. She attended Lowell schools and was a graduate of the Academy of Notre Dame in Tingsboro with a class of 1995. Mary went on to graduate from UMass Lowell in 2000 with a bachelor's in liberal arts. Mary was working as a procurement coordinator with the Massachusetts Trial Court in Boston and also in Lowell. She previously worked in the Middlesex County District Attorney's Office, also in Lowell. An avid Red Sox fan, Patriots, and UMass Lowell Riverhawks hockey fan, Mary also enjoyed trips to the beach and the Foxwoods. However, what brought Mary the most joy was being with her family, especially her nieces, nephews, and cousins. A sparkle of joy and humor in any room she entered, Mary would be deeply missed by those who knew her best. Besides her parents, she was survived by her 3 brothers, Brian Donovan and his wife Sarah, and their children, Emily and Brian III. Patrick Donovan, his wife Holly, and their 3 children, Finn, Declan, and Delaney. And John Donovan and his wife Jennifer. Also many aunts, uncles, cousins, and her dear cousin Kelly Ann Nagel of Lowell, and her friend Anthony DeSessa of Malden. Personally, Mr. Mayor, my family and I have known Mary for a long time. In fact, we all grew up together. Mary and I worked at the trial court in Lowell together for a number of years, a place where she was very popular and had many friends. Mary always had a smile on her face, a positive attitude, and the ability to make people laugh, even in the most stressful of situations. She will be sorely missed. I know my colleagues on the council join me in extending our deepest sympathies and condolences to the Donovan family for the loss of their daughter, sister, aunt, and cousin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
First order of business are the minutes of the City Council meeting of November 15th for acceptance. We have motion to approve the minutes by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Milanazzo. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Being before 7 o'clock, we'll skip ahead of the public hearings and go to communications from the city manager. This evening we have communications A through F. We'll begin with A, which is the swamp locks lighting. Any discussion on the swamp locks lighting? If not, we'll move on to item B, which is an increase in illegal dumping fines. Any discussion, Council Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Mitchell, thank you for the response. I know I asked about it a couple of meetings ago. Can you just give a brief overview of hopefully what we can do?
Yes, thank you. What we're doing, we have the fee ordinance that we presented to the City Council to raise fees, make them commensurate with the surrounding towns. And one of them is we want to really increase the fee for illegal dumping because it's something that can't be tolerated. So we're going to create a series of fines, different tiers depending on the severity of the of the dumping, anywhere from $500 to $2,500 for the more severe dumping. I mean, I think it's a great incentive for people not to dump because they're going to pay dearly if they do.
And I know one of the big spots in the city is over at First Street, where the Hill is area, over the highway. And I know we have the installation of cameras going in sometime soon as well. Is this something that can be incorporated over there?
Yes, that's one of the good things about the cameras is that we're going to have portable cameras that we're going to be able to move around to different sites. This will be one of them because it has been a constant. As soon as we clean it up, it gets dirty again. So we'll be putting cameras and monitoring the situation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on item B? If not, we'll move on to item C, which is Western Avenue. Any discussion on Western Avenue? Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. So I read the report, but what I'm really interested in is I don't want just a pedestrian cross tower. It's too much money. It doesn't make any sense. And we've said it before. We want traffic to go through there. So that's how I'd like us to try to proceed with this. I don't know the history of it. Someone was telling me that those barriers just kind of showed up, I don't know how many years ago, but they weren't there, and then they were there, and now they're there. So if we can investigate removal of those barriers, opening the road up, and putting some sort of crossing signalization, with the gates, okay. That's what I'm looking at. I mean, we're doing the Lord overpass. We're gonna do the whole. So it may be an impossible task, but that's what I see and envision over there, trying to get traffic and foot traffic going through there.
Mr. Manager.
I would do that tomorrow if I could, but even Congresswoman Tsongas's office reached out to Pan Am, and they're being very, very reluctant to give us the at-grade crossing. We will continue to push them and lobby them and do whatever we can. Hopefully, it comes to the point where they need something from us.
Right.
And we'll say, okay, it's a two-way track. But we will continue. But right now, they will not allow us to do an at-grade crossing there. But we will continue to push them.
All right. Can we get a little? Not right now, but can we get a little history of how those
Sure.
petitions got
Yep.
put there?
You mean, are they Jersey barriers?
Yeah, Jersey
Yeah, the
barriers.
Jersey, how they arrived there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my understanding that was open at one point. There was auto traffic going through there, but,
Yeah.
so let's see.
We'll look at the Jersey barriers.
Okay, and I'll just leave you at this point that no one thought President Trump would be president. So if we can do that, we can open that up.
Okay.
Further discussion on item C. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. It's the hard act to follow. Okay, Mr. Manager, they talk about the elevated bridge. I mean, this is a question that's been on this council's mind for the past several years. To open up the Western Avenue studios to the downtown, I think is important. It's an important part of the entire package as to what we're looking to do. I think it's something that even will help it's an amenity that will work well with the Hamilton project. Is there a possibility of going to Congresswoman Tsongas's office to ask if there are any type of unique grants that might be out there to do the bridge? Because I don't see us getting the money from the state. I don't see this bridge as being a priority. But is that a possibility?
Absolutely. We'll continue, as we say in the report, we're going to continue to look for funding sources.
Yeah.
And that will be one of the ones that will reach out to Congresswoman Tsongas's office to see if there is a funding source. But we're not giving up on it. We're just saying that it's a costly project, and we'll attempt to locate the funding as soon as we can.
Just another question. I think they talked, that's the bend in the railroad tracks at that particular point, and I can basically understand what they're trying to say, but is there a possibility of moving it up the street in any way? Is there walkability at any other point?
We'll certainly look at that. I mean, Mike McGovern and I walked it ourselves. I mean, I didn't think it was that dangerous. If we were walking right up the tracks and, but I'm just saying, we'll look to see if there's another spot that it could come into.
The thing is, actually, every day, there are people from the Western Avenue Studios that walk over to get coffee at the Dunkin' Donuts that are right in that area. So the question is, my fear at some point is that the railroad would say, you know what, we'll put fences up, and that's going to really create a problem. But the thing is, I think this is something we should just continue to look at. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Okay, yeah, can I ask that we go to a different part of the agenda, 7.2? We have some students in Lowell High that have been here actually since 5 o'clock. And before we get to the public hearings, if we can get them up there and speak what they want to talk about, that'd be great. Okay, sure.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a good report. I would encourage the administration, if you have not, to put it on the website, the city's website. But I just have a question on a sentence in the first paragraph, and maybe I'm just not understanding it, and I apologize, but it talks about the city's unemployment rate of 5.5, and then it goes on to say Lowell's unemployment rate is usually 27.4% higher than Massachusetts' average and 14.5 higher than the United States average. Over what period of time? Because, I mean, if we're at 5.5 now, full employment's at 4. I guess that sentence just doesn't make sense to me. But again, unless it should read on average, Lowell's unemployment rate is 27.4% lower than the Massachusetts. I don't know, but that's just a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mayor, to the council. I believe that number is based on the 2015 year-long, but it will double-check to confirm that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate the report. I want to thank Planning and Development. But, Mr. Mayor, through you, I don't know if it's Rodney, I have some questions with DPD officials about Class C office space, which is, second, third, and fourth floor buildings in the downtown. I mean, the good news is the first floor has nearly a 95% occupancy rate. That's the good news. But as we know, the second, and third, and fourth floors are still struggling. So what are we doing with working with landlords to occupy the space? We know the great example Mill Number 5 set by opening the space up, creating workspace. What is Planning and Development doing to working with these landlords to help this vacant space, this problem is not getting any better. I don't pretend it's easy. There's ADA compliant issues. I don't pretend it's easy, but and I also have heard as of late there's new grants out there for elevators for buildings, for historic buildings such as this. So what are we doing working with landlords to occupy the space and helping them out? So whether it's to you, Mr. Manager, or Planning and Development.
No, myself and members of Planning and Development have visited these buildings with the building owners to view them and to see what we can do to help them to get them occupied. You're 100% correct. A lot of the questions, is the availability of handicapped accessibility, is that they don't have elevators. And a doctor isn't going to locate on the second floor if their patients, if there isn't an elevator to get to the second floor. Also, in this new age of the type of businesses, the type of space they want, the owners have to reconfigure their office space. The day of, individualized offices is over. It's an open concept. And we've been working with the different property owners, not only to help them to reconfigure their space or apply for grants, but also to work with the real estate brokers. And anytime that anybody comes to the city that needs office space, we have the list of office space that's available, and we refer them to those owners so they can locate them. I agree with you 100%. 95% occupancy on the ground floor is terrific, but we do have to work on the second and third floor. And when you talk about Class A, B, and C office space, you're really talking about amenities. It's like Cross Point has much more amenities than like a second floor in the downtown, so that's why they call it a Class A. A Class B is a little bit less, but still the amenities. But they don't have the amenities in the second and third floors in the downtown Lowell offices.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. That's great news. Sounds like you're working diligently. So please keep this council informed of what we can do to help and your further progress. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any further discussion on the Lowell Stat Public Report for Economic Development? If not, we'll move on to the 2016 Mass Grant, Mass Works Grant. We have a speaker for that, registered speaker.
Armin Hebert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen here. Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to congratulate you on securing another grant to build the city. $2 million, not a great deal of money, but a lot of money to bring into the city to go along with the money you've already brought in for the Hamilton Canal project, stuff like that. My only concern here is, there's always a but, and it says right here, a $2 million shot in the arm of Thorndike Exchange. I'm a firm believer that if someone's building a private building, he's building a $50 million project there, and that tax money, grant money, which comes from taxes, is being used to assist his program in his building. I don't think that's really what it should be, and now it's talking about changing with the Lord Overpass, because if you do the reconfiguration for his building, it's not going to work with the Lord Overpass. I know you don't have to answer questions, but I'm just wondering if there's a delay that's going to slow the Lord Overpass project down, where now it's not going to be filled in, it's going to be renovated, or whatever you're going to do, and is this actually a legal process to give him public money into his private project? And if he should have to do his own infrastructure work. Thank you for hearing me tonight, guys.
Thank you. Any further discussion on item E? Item E? If not, we'll move on to item F, Hampshire Street. Any discussion on item F? If not, the chair would entertain a
Item F.
motion. I'm sorry, Councilor Mercia.
Thank you very much. Sometimes when projects are ongoing or possibly in the stage of being looked at to have development happen, such as Hampshire Street and that Public Works building to be demolished, sometimes neighbors are elderly and they can't really get out, but they're abutters. And that's such a thing happened where a daughter of an abutter, her mother's an abutter, called to me and asked me if I could keep the mother informed as to what developments had taken place. And last week, I asked Patty Larkin from the planning department if she would call this lady, see what she could to make her aware of all the things that were going on. And she did that. And I just wanted to publicly thank her for the great job that she did. See, people come to us, but we need others that work for the city to do our bidding, more or less. And she did a very informative presentation to the lady over the phone, so much so that there was a discrepancy in one of the areas, and it's going to be changed to the liking of everybody involved. So I think this is good practice between the city and the departments and between the council. So thank you very much, Patty, for a wonderful job. Thank you.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the communications, place them on file by Council Milonazo, second by Council Samaras. Discussion on the motion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Okay, moving on, we have a communication from the city manager. Request out-of-state travel for one person for the Lowell Fire Department. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Larry, seconded by Council Milonazo. Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the mayor. I see where the round-trip airfare, lodging, and meals will be provided by the vendor. My question through you, maybe to the city solicitor, does the city council have to accept this as a gift prior to them going? Because, I mean, there are, there's a $50 cap on what you can accept, can or can't accept. And if we have 2 or 3 people from the fire department going down, I'm sure the cost is in excess of, obviously, $50. But I don't know if we need to accept this as a gift.
No, but this is all part of the process for us to buy these trucks, so they're actually going down as part of the bid. It's being paid for them to go down to inspect the trucks before we accept them.
No, I understand that, but
Yeah.
the vendor's paying their trip. We're paying
Yeah.
for the truck, but the vendor's paying for their trip.
But my understanding, it's all part of the bid process. Is that correct, Christine?
Actually, I'm not sure offhand as to whether, who's paying for the actual meal portion. We can certainly check into that, and,
Just, again, just to be safe, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
if it's part of the whole bid package, that's fine. But at the end of the day, if we should accept the gift as a council in order to then let them go on this trip to look at the fire truck, that's fine. I just,
sure,
and-
we'll double check on
Yeah,
that,
okay,
on
thank
that
you.
aspect of the, but it certainly, the overall, obviously, is part of the
bid.
bid.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Mercia.
The gift here is that we're buying this truck. It's their gift. They're receiving that gift. As far as I'm concerned, the price of this trip will be included in the price of that vehicle. So all in all, we're paying one way or another. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on this? Roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to declare surplus piece of property at 682 Lawrence Street. If there's no objection, we will waive the full first reading, go to the second reading, which is to declare surplus property located at 682 Lawrence Street in Lowell, Mass., and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the disposition of said parcel, namely 682 Lawrence Street. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Rourke, second by Council Milonazo. Discussion on the motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, what's the desired use on this parcel? It's only about 4,500 square feet, but what are the city's desires as it goes out to RFP?
I'll have Ms. Lucken answer that question.
Thank you.
It would be consistent with zoning. It could be a house, it could be single-family home, or it could be a coffee shop, something like that, small retail, maybe a small retail. So the RFP would request, both.
Yeah. TMU zone, so that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any, Council Leahy.
Just a quick question. Again. Yeah. So I thought the minimum was 5,000 for a house, but it does depend on the neighborhood?
Well, this had a house on it up until September 27th, 2016. So ostensibly, they could apply to put a house on there and still be within zoning.
Would it be special permit, though, or is it?
I don't believe so, because it's non-conforming use. If you, because there was a house there and it was taken down, if you put a house back there or apply for a permit to put a house back there within the year, then it's still consistent with zoning. We'd be careful to make sure it wasn't anything, obnoxious. But that's a question for you if you don't want a
Okay.
house.
All right, I just thought we were, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a lease of the cemetery building space at the West Lawn Cemetery to Edward Weezer, doing business as Weezer Landscaping and Construction. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading and go to the second reading, authorizing the city manager to lease cemetery building space, approximately 2,000 square feet of garage space available in the service building at the West Lawn Cemetery in Lowell, Massachusetts. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Leahy. Discussion on the motion, Council Leahy.
Sure. Through you to the manager. Is this, is he doing the work at the cemeteries, and is it consistent with his contract?
Yes, he was awarded the contract to mow the lawns in the cemetery, and he needs to store, it makes more
Sure.
sense just to store some of the equipment right on site. So We hadn't been getting rent in the past, but we decided that we should be getting some type of rent for it. So we're starting with this rent right now.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, under subcommittee reports, we have a report from the Finance Subcommittee for November 22nd, 2016. Counselor Elliott.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this evening, the Finance Subcommittee met at 5 o'clock, and every member of the City Council attended. We had 2 members of the School Committee in attendance as well. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the proposed new high school and its financing, and it was also an update on the status of the project, in particular the feasibility study. And I'll just give a brief recap of the meeting because it was just held, but the long and the short of it is the original estimates that were proposed from a report that was produced, I believe it was in 2010, by the school committee indicated it was about a $250 million project back then. Of course, that was well over 5 or 6 years ago. New estimates that have come in up to this date range from 230 million up to 300 million and counting. I think the important fact from this meeting was the $231 million is just a baseline estimate to improve the conditions at the high school to basic standards. And that was, it was an eye-opener, I think, for the administration and the city council that there's no frills, there's no bells, no whistles, it's just basic improvements. So that's the first step. The next and most important step is the educational component that will be forthcoming within the next month or so, that the consultants will bring to the MSB, or the Massachusetts Building Authority, to say these are the programs that are being run. These are the enrollment figures that we have. These are the basic needs for us to put together a top-notch educational system. And at that point, the state with the consultant will come up with a number of options. And those options are based on reimbursement figures. I just think it's important to note that the 80% reimbursement figure that is typically used, or around 76%, drops off significantly for a number of items that are typically not funded. And the manager alluded to things like modular classrooms, swimming pools, land acquisition is also not eligible. So those are major items that will be taken into consideration when the final preferred option comes in from our consultants. And we'll take that up and make a decision moving forward if that's suitable. And I think more importantly, what's affordable. Projections. Mr. Baldwin used. There are some assumptions that we have to base to factor in when we use a $100 million figure on the city's share, if that is going to be the figure, if that is going to be the project. Estimates indicate it could be for a $250,000 home, an increase of $172 for the single-family homeowner. For the commercial property owner, that figure jumps to $350. So these are just preliminary estimates to have the conversation, to begin the conversation on exactly what is affordable, what is going to be recommended, and how we proceed further. But the most important aspect moving forward is the educational component that the school committee and the school administration is working on. Once that data is compiled, they'll come back with, the benchmark needs or the baseline needs, and how we put together a new institution, whether it's new or a rehabilitation project, and then the city comes in with the funding aspect. So that's an hour-and-a-half meeting, condensed into a short report. Motion was made to bring that forward as a report of progress, and we'll continue to meet between now and November of next year when the final decision will be made. That's the report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Leary?
No, thank you. And I think the chairman, Councilor Elliott, really laid out pretty concise, a lot of dialogue that went on regarding really our initial estimates. And I want to thank the manager and his folks, and then Perkins and Eastman as well, for taking the time and getting really kind of being proactive with the timeframes. And I think, Mr. Manager, I agree with you that instead of doing this in January, we need to really push this back until March so we can take a look at not only the educational plan, but ultimately, really what are the other options, if there are any other options. It was a good report. I think, what your team put together was excellent. It was, meticulously put together, was thoughtful. Again, once we get the educational plan, I think we need to really communicate with the school committee, making sure maybe even a joint meeting at some point in terms of, where are you with your plan? How do you foresee this being rolled out? To lay it out for the public, I think the first thing that will happen is on December 8th, they're going to have a public presentation from Perkins Eastman at the high school, just kind of saying what state they are for the public. So people from the public should attend the high school if they can. Ultimately, in January, they're going to come up with 3 options of locations for the MSBA, and the educational plan will be known at that point. And really around March, the time frame where we will be making financial decisions, they'll be coming up with their recommended or the proposed location where we'll be at. Whether it's the footprint we are now or otherwise. So it's coming up really quickly. I think the attendance of the entire city council and a good portion of some of the school committee there is indicative of how seriously we take it. And I'll be looking forward to going through additional information and really hopefully looking at other options as well. One of the areas when we began the project, like in 2010-11, other than the HVAC, which was extraordinarily inefficient for whatever, for multiple reasons, the other area for us was key was the science labs. The science labs and technology, in order to really compete and to keep your middle-class taxpayers in the city, you need to make sure you had that STEM infrastructure in place. And a lot of folks, I think, when they look at it, they're like, well, what does that really mean? You look at what the governor just stated, I guess, in the paper today, ultimately that they're going right to high schools looking for interns so they can find jobs or assistance for the economic need for jobs that are based on STEM. So ultimately, this is imperative not only for helping to keep people that are in the city that are middle-class taxpayers, bringing people in who may be looking for an opportunity, but also for economic sense, for giving people a chance to make a decent living. I think Committeeman Gendron said it, this is probably the most important project we're going to take or consider in really our lifetime. But saying that, the cost was definitely an eye-opener. So I think we need to go through go through this meticulously, look for options, and definitely get additional feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? All right, we have a motion by Councilor Elliott to accept the report as a report of progress, second by Councilor Leary. Discussion, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Being shortly after 7 o'clock, Councilor Milonazo.
Mr. Mayor, if it's appropriate, under subcommittee, I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules to bring something up very quickly from the zoning subcommittee.
For the zoning subcommittee?
Yeah, correct.
Councilor Milonazo asked for suspension of rules and I want to take a matter relative to the zoning subcommittee. If there's no objection, we'll do it by general consent. Hearing no objection, Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of weeks ago, the zoning subcommittee received from Development Services a very detailed packet of proposed amendments to the zoning code. And as the chairman, I've been working with the Citywide Neighborhood Council, and they asked that one item it's called Improved Permitting Efficiencies. It's section, which would be number 5, to be referred to the law department, to be drawn up in proper form, and then come back to us and then schedule a public hearing. So there's one item that could be expedited instead of waiting for another meeting. We're actually looking at doing a mega meeting with the entire Citywide Neighborhood Council. But I would move that we take the improved permitting efficiency section of the amendments and send that to the law department to be drawn up in proper form.
Okay, so Councilor Milonazo makes a motion to that effect, second by Councilor Mercia. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Being shortly after 7 o'clock, we'll go to the public hearings. We have 5 public hearings scheduled. The first public hearing is an ordinance to create one new grant-funded position entitled Substance Abuse Coordinator and establish a salary in the Health and Human Services Department. We'll open up the hearing for the proponents. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, City Councilors. I'm Karen V. Grew, and I'm the Director of the Health and Human Services Department, and I'd like to speak in favor of the ordinance you have before you. As you're well aware, Lowell has lost far too many of its residents to the opioid crisis. And despite the good work that has been ongoing in the city by our city leadership and our community partners, we are still seeing the numbers not going down in overdose deaths. So about a year ago, the city manager attended the Massachusetts Municipal Association's annual meeting. And there was a call to action that outlined 10 recommendations for all municipalities to help them be better prepared to fight the opioid crisis. At that point, Lowell was actively working on 9 out of the 10 and should be commended for that. The only one that was left was what you have before you, and that was the designation of a municipal point person who would oversee the substance abuse prevention activities for the city. So thanks to the hard work by the police department's grant writing staff, there is now funding for this position that you have before you. And that will allow us to hire exactly that, the municipal point person. This person's job will be to help coordinate the different groups that have been formed over the last year or so, from the mayor's opiate crisis task force to the district attorney's opiate task force to the Greater Lowell Health Alliance's substance abuse subcommittee. There's a lot of work and a lot of people that are involved in these processes, but we need someone to help bring them together and make sure that we're all working towards the same outcomes. Not only will this person be coordinating activities, but they'll also be collecting the data that is being generated by many of the different outlets, not only in the city, but also in the state, and providing that to the groups in real time so that we can make the best decisions around where our gaps are, what are the best solutions, and how are we going to get there effectively. So, in short, this is a critical position for the city. You know that, you've heard that, you've been hearing that for some time. But it's not only for us and so that we can do our job better, but it's for our residents and the families and the friends who have been affected by this crisis. So I ask that you support this ordinance and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing on behalf of the proponents and open it up for those who wish to speak in opposition. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing for the opponents, open it up to the City Council. We have a motion by Councilor Belanger to approve.
Second.
A second by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is great news. I want to echo Karen's comments that myself, the city manager, and a number of colleagues back in January attended the Mass Municipal Association meeting that was held in January. And in that conference, it was a 2-day conference, was an opioid task force workshop of approximately about an hour and a half, which I attended with some of my colleagues. And on that very day, it was released from the statewide Mass Opioid Addiction and Overdose Prevention Task Force, which is a statewide task force. That very day released the 10 recommendations for local leadership for all cities and towns to do to combat the opiate crisis. And to echo Karen's points, we were already doing 9 out of the 10. So I subsequently came in with a motion to hire a point person for the crisis. And while sometimes we want things right away, patience can be a virtue. And it was well worth the wait because we ended up to obtain grant money for this position. And it's going to be paying a handsome salary of approximately $75,000. So this will allow the city of Lowell to get a very, very qualified individual for this position. So we're very excited to have this individual, and it's much needed now that this will be the point person for all contacts and all organizations throughout the city and beyond for families and to turn to who have families and friends who suffer from addiction. So this is good news. It's long awaited, and I'm very excited about it, Mr. Mayor. But through you to Karen again, if I can just get a brief timeline of the process and how soon can we expect somebody to be on board?
Well, the job description has already been drawn up, so once the ordinance is passed, we can get that paperwork through HR and the legal department for signature and get that posted right away.
Okay, thank you. Now, one more thing, Mr. Mayor. Now, I saw the job description, Karen, and could you please add that the individual will work closely and be a member of the opiate task force? I didn't see it on the job description. Could,
I believe it was there, but I could check.
okay, maybe I'm missing it, but I just want to reinforce that. That would be great. So thank
Absolutely.
you very much. Mr. Manager, congratulate to you and the administration and our grant writers especially. Continue to bring home the bacon, so to speak. This is great news and a much-needed service, and we will get a handle on this crisis sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the motion to approve? If not, Counselor Leary? No. Okay. Roll call.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
9 yeas.
The next 4 public hearings are all matters having to do with the National Grid. If the chair would entertain a motion to bundle all 4 of the public hearings, we have motions by just about everybody. Motion by Counsel Rourke, seconded by Counsel Milonazo to bundle the 4 public hearings. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. So I'll just read the 4 public hearings. The first one is to request the installation of a pole located at the corner of Gorham Street and Livingston Street. The second one is permission to relocate a pole at 35 Carter Street. The third one is permission to relocate a pole at the corner of Westford and School Streets. And the fourth one is request permission to install a joint-owned pole at the corner of Willie and Franklin Street. We'll open up the hearing for those who wish to speak in favor. Does anybody wish to speak in favor?
Ken Dobie, National Grid, and as you know, or probably know, most of these are one pole floor on Carter Street was at the request of the Markley Center to relocate the pole, and the majority of these poles are for the new Meadowbrook substation project, which will make the electrical grid more reliable.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. We'll close the hearing on behalf of the proponents and open it up for those who wish to speak in opposition. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition, and opposition. Hearing none, we'll close the hearing on behalf of the opponents and open it up to the council. We have a motion to approve all 4 by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Leary. To refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the one question about the one on Gorham and Livingston, is that the one where we had discussion with Mr. King and that's all set?
That's all been resolved, and he's in favor of this.
All right. On the drawing, it doesn't look right, but it is all set?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Oh, we don't need a roll call, I guess. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, that concludes the public hearings. Next, we'll go to the wire inspector. National Grid requests permission to install a pole on the east side of the intersection of Lawrence Street and Andor Street near 706 Lawrence Street. Need a motion to accept and adopt the accompanying order. We have a motion by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Under petitions, we have 1 petition. Chair would entertain a motion referred to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is the Generation Citizens Program. Lowell High School students request permission to speak to the City Council regarding lighting in the downtown area.
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank you all for your time and the opportunity to speak to you all about our concerns as students. My name is Pichani Sam, and I'm currently a 10th grade student attending Lowell High School, as well as my accompanying classmates. We are part of a program called Generation Citizen. The program pushes students and the youth to get involved with our local government to create lasting change within the city. So prior to the project, there had been many accounts and much notice about safety concerns with pertaining to sightseeing and exploration within Lowell, specifically downtown, the downtown area during the night. It seems that the current lighting during the dark hours is very inconsistent, unreliable, and fairly dim.
I'm short. A huge issue is safety within the lighting, because in the night, a lot of students, people, adults, anybody goes to the downtown during the nighttime. It's very dark, very dim. A lot of us were just outside walking here, and it was extremely dark, and we had a lot of trouble like navigating, and it's just a issue that we've been having with the safety. We believe that it would like lower the crime rates with the lighting. More lighting would lower the rates, and we just believe that it's a huge safety issue within the city, in the downtown mostly.
Come on. My name is Ian Cuna, and I often do walk at night, usually to get home or walk to the bus station to get a ride home, and I often do find that it's really dark outside. I often travel through the Broadway section near the Market Basket, and I have to find that the section near Market Basket is very lit up, but then as you go further down, it dims down and becomes very dark, and I often kind of just put my head down and kind of rush through there because I'm kind of frightened.
Hi, my name is Nicole Shankett, and this is our problem that we're submitting to you guys, and we think that businesses will open up till later, and also that tourists will actually come during the nighttime to visit, since it'll be brighter, and we think it's a lot safer if we have lights.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak? Thank you very much. Chair would entertain a motion referred to the city manager for report and recommendation. Council Belanger, seconded by Council Rourke. Council Belanger.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a different idea. First, I'd like to make a motion to refer. I mean, these kids really, really impressed me here tonight. I'm very proud of them to see our youth engage in our downtown like this, and they made some outstanding points, and I had met with them prior to the meeting that, lighting, there's such a ripple effect. When you enhance lighting, you make an environment much safer for people to come and spend money, so that there's an economic development effect. And I think these kids fully understand that, and I'm very proud to see their engagement. So what I'd like to do is refer this to the Youth Services Subcommittee, Mr. Mayor, that they can sit with the front of the subcommittee with this issue and others that they may have from being in the trenches day in and day out in the downtown, and I love to see them involved. I want to keep them involved. So thank you very much.
All right, Council Belanger makes a motion to refer to the Youth Services Subcommittee. That's seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank and congratulate the students. You sat through the Finance Subcommittee, you sat through this, and did you learn a lot? Well, that's not the response I was expecting, but it's good. I don't know how old, what are you, 15, 16? I'm glad you're not 18 because you all spoke so well. And I think a lot of us would be nervous if you're running for city council. So I think it's a good motion, and I agree. We keep them engaged. And Mr. Manager, I know that when you went through this study, there was a suggestion that maybe you approach the private business owners to see if they wanted to put additional lighting in, and maybe that's that's a way to do that. I know that you did replace all of the light bulbs downtown, or they're not light bulbs now, the LED, and it has been significantly better, but they bring to our attention that we may need to revisit this.
Are you all set?
Yes, I'm all set. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council Leahy, then Council Samaras, then Council Rourke, and then, okay.
Sure, I just wanted to add the same thing, that, thank you for coming down. It's a good project that you worked on, and as Councilor Elliott said, we have been looking at this over the last couple of years, and we've improved different areas. And you brought new areas up to our attention that we'll take a look at, and coming before the subcommittee would be a good idea to, sit down with you and get more engaged in this. But thank you for coming down.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just want to congratulate the students for an excellent job coming before us to speak on this issue. But I think when you see students like that, it clearly demonstrates why they deserve a new high school. And I think there's no better ad for wanting to build a high school than these students that are before us. But I can recall being the former headmaster, whenever I wanted something done, I would have the students come before the school committee, and that's when I got things passed. So, I mean, you really have to realize that your voice is very important tonight, and you were heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion? Okay, on the motions. Well, we'll just refer to the city manager as well, and just want to send it to youth services.
I'd like to see a youth services subcommittee,
All right,
Mr. Mayor.
so we'll go just to youth services. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Thank you very much. That was a good job, and thank you for your patience. Next, we move on to motions. The first motion of the evening is a motion by Council Mercy, request that the city manager find ways and means to illuminate the crosswalk on Broadway Street in front of the senior center with possibly reflectors or a solar light for vehicular and pedestrian safety. Second by Council Lay. Council Mercy.
Because of the previous speakers, this motion speaks for itself, and I lumped this right in with safety. And one of the young men here this evening talked about Broadway Street and how it's a little bit unsafe because it's dark. So thank you very much. It speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is by Councilor Rourke. Request the city manager establish an e-commerce position at the Lowell Police Department to provide a safe location for legal e-commerce transactions. Seconded by Council Leary. Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple people asked me questions over the past few weeks about, if they buy something on social media or through the internet, where it's not necessarily a business to a customer, but just a citizen to citizen type of transaction. And talking to Superintendent Taylor, he told me that the city had no designated spot for e-commerce transactions, but that the police department was available to be done. So hopefully, Mr. Manager, someone get back to us pretty quick with the holiday season upon us, and just to publicize that if you do buy something through the internet or on social media, that the police department is a welcoming place for those things to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? All opposed? So voted. The next motion of the evening is by Councilor Samaras. Request the city manager invite members of the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust to update the city council regarding the Concord River Greenway and its connections to other trails. Seconded by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Mr. Manager, I'd like you to invite members of the Lowell Park and Conservation Trust to come before us to review what has been done regarding trails and what trails have been completed. I think this is important information. When you speak about economic development, you speak to amenities that a community needs to attract businesses. And amenities such as trails, bike trails, sports, theater, and the arts are very important to the future of Lowell. So I would like to see them come before us to discuss this. And perhaps, rather than the full board, I'd suggest they come before the Subcommittee on Economic Development to talk about their issues and go from there. Thank you.
So, Councilor, did you want to amend the motion to have it be?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right, so if there's no objection to the amendment, we'll just accept the amendment. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Leary.
Just quickly, I think it's a good motion. It's a good extension of what Councilor Leahy and I had a motion regarding the Riverbrook motion. I think it is, ultimately, we need to sit down and really put a comprehensive plan. How do you go from the Bruce Friedman Trail all the way to the Concord River Greenway? And not only that, but what are the financial impacts? Where do we need to reach out to get grants or work with different interested parties that may have links to finances to achieve that? So I think it's a timely motion. I think it does have ultimately an economic impact. A lot of folks are using different restaurants. If you use the Bruce Friedman Trail in downtown Chelmsford, and I've used it, you go to different restaurants you ordinarily wouldn't go because you're there on your bike. And I know people who meet each other for lunch, et cetera. So it is good for definitely for retail business, and it's also obviously good for recreational. So I think it's a timely motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. The next motion of the evening is a motion by Councilor Leary. Request that the city manager invite the Lowell Telecommunication Corporation's new director, Wendy Bloom to present before the City Council regarding the LTC's current objectives and new initiatives for 2017. Seconded by Council Leahy. Council Leary.
No, I think it's timely. I think the new director, Wendy Bloom, has been will be heading the LTC as of, I think, a full year in January. They just had their awards night just this past week, and I think it's a good idea to bring her in and discuss what positive initiatives she's trying to achieve in terms of where does she want to go. And I know, obviously, we're one of the bigger funders of LTC. We may have some questions or concerns that we want to bring up as well. And I think having a good kind of a formal dialogue with her is positive. I think what she's done so far in terms of bringing back that one day of news programming under her leadership has been essential. I think you can remember, I think Councilor Mercer was on the council, and maybe Councilor Elliott, when you had the full-time news. You actually had full folks. You really thought you were you're big-time folks on TV, but it was also very informative. I remember watching it, and it was actually pretty cool.
I think that was a compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment. But I mean, it was big time. I think positive influence, positive information coming out. So I think having her come before us and see where she's going would be a positive thing for the city, and having that dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, I think it's a good motion. I agree. The more local, programming, the more local news that we get, the better. And it'll be. I really think it's important to somehow get these meetings, council meetings, planning board meetings, conservation, back on the lower channels. I know we get bumped because of home shopping, but somehow, some way, and I don't know how we do it, but getting local programming back on Channel 10, I think would be. Maybe she has some insight on how we should do that, but I think it's good to let people at home know what's available and what's going on with the local programming channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion of the evening is by Councilor Leahy. Request that the city manager have the Department of Planning and Development provide a report regarding Franklin Park development with Habitat for Humanity. Seconded by Councilor Leary. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. This motion almost speaks for itself. If we just get a report on how Habitat for Humanity has affected that area, Rock Street, and what's going on with the park, that'd be great. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Rook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the manager. Mr. Manager, could you also get an update on the one on 660 Chester Street? That was the one that had, the city went in and cleaned out the area. The brush and the trees are up high, and they bought it, and hopefully now it's all set and ready to go. Thank you. Yeah.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is a motion by Councilor Leahy, request the city manager of the Parks Department repair a fence on Moody Street near St. Joseph's. Excuse me. Second by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Again, this motion, it was brought up at one of the neighborhood meetings. So there's a basketball area there that we're having a little bit of trouble. The kids are breaking the fence and they're cutting through this area, which kind of is a trouble spot. If they cause trouble, they know how to run down and duck through the park. I did speak to Mr. Belgard about this, and they are working on it. Happened to run into him. But if we could also check too, I think I've heard rumors that we're having trouble with maybe the fence vendor. So, I'm sure that you hold our vendors up to a higher standard. So if we're having trouble with certain vendors, that they should be put on notice that, we need certain things done and they need to be done well and in a timely manner. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The last motion of the evening is a motion by Councilor Leahy and Councilor Rourke. Request that the city manager explore the possibility of reducing speed limits throughout the city, especially in densely populated areas, in accordance with the Innovative Cities Grant. Motion, Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Again, this motion, just with all the traffic issues we have throughout the city, and listening to what's going on in surrounding towns, Boston, Somerville, where they're taking a look at this and they're proposing to lower their speeds in their city limits with the safe streets and everything that we've been working on the last year. This is just, up for discussion, whether it'd be a good idea or not, but certain sections, certain streets, whatever. So I just wanted to put it, we just wanted to put it out there for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Counselor Elliott.
Mr. Mayor, before we get to announcements, I wanted to ask my indulgence, my colleagues, to suspend the rules. And the purpose would be to discuss the recent homicide up at Westminster Village Arms in Pawtuckaville.
Okay, well, first let's take the vote on the final motion, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All in
Sorry.
favor, all opposed, so voted. Counselor Elliott is asking for suspension of the rules in order to discuss the homicide. If there's no objection, we'll do it by general consent. Hearing no objection, Counselor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank my colleagues. I know this is of concern to all of us, and I didn't want to wait another week before filing a motion, but you know, this was a tragedy, and it's an issue that needs to be addressed with Mr. Manager up at Westminster Village. I know that this council has raised it in the past. I know I have raised it on a number of occasions. The operation or management or lack thereof of those 431 units up on off Pawtucket Boulevard. It's a recurring problem. I believe the owners, I looked up the owner records, it's a number of companies, an LLC based out of New York City, New York. So they could care less, and I believe the reflection of the way that place is being run is a good example of, you know, an absentee landlord. There are 400 subsidized units of Section 8 housing, so they're getting their regular checks every single month from the federal government, and we believe in helping people, and that's why we have affordable housing. But the police department, in just 1 year's time, have responded to 573 calls for service at that one institution. That is just not acceptable at any stretch. The police department know it's been a problem. In fact, even it was just a couple of years ago, they performed construction on, I think, almost all of their units without pulling one building permit until we got involved. So it's just an example of them ignoring the city, and it's like the Wild West up there. Of those 573 calls, 198 of them were for medical calls, 68 for, this is just in 1 year's time, Mr. Manager, from 1 year from today. 68 domestic violence, 42 for disturbance, 91 police-initiated calls, 16 assaults, 15 fights, 22 thefts. This doesn't even go into the drug dealing, the overdoses, and it's just a reckless place. You know, I don't know if they have security guards. I understand that, you know, they don't. There's no cameras, so it's a free-for-all up there. I hear complaints from my neighbors. I live a stone's throw from this place, and it's this homicide, the murder of this woman it's terrible, but it's to some degree a sign of, you know, what is or what is not going on. So I believe that the management company has been contacted in the fact, but we're sending police officers, our resources for this place. You know, it's referred to as the Old Shaughnessy Terrace, by the way, Mr. Manager, and I know you know that. So that's not a good thing. So whatever it takes, whether we need to send in a SWAT team or you can't close the place down. I get it, but I think some very firm measures have to be taken in order to straighten this place out, and we're not sending a police officer or multiple cars up to this, you know, this one housing complex. We're trying to help people, and it's you know, and it's being operated in a terrible fashion. So I'll stop there. I know my colleagues feel the same way and maybe have something to add, but I didn't think it was. I thought it was important to raise it between now and the next meeting to take some action on it. And I don't know what it is, Mr. Manager. I don't know if we suspend the Section 8 or we go up, we'll find multiple violations, or, you know, or what to do. But it's clearly out of control up there, and I believe we need to do something. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and my colleagues, for suspending the rules. And hello, Mr. Manager. I don't know if some actions have been taken or what we can do, but you know, we're getting emails about it, and So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilor Elliott 100%. This has been ongoing up there. We've seen, almost every neighborhood group meeting this come, if not every other one, this property comes up. From residents, we constantly hear it, and they have to live with it. This property manager or owner doesn't care about much else besides that government money that's electronically funded in their account. They don't care about much more other than that, okay? Something's got to change, okay? Whether we send the building commissioner in there, look for violations and handle it like we do a drug dealing home, use that tactic, or what can we do, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager or the city solicitor, can we mandate a tenement of this size to have security and cameras? What can we do? What are our rights here as city officials and residents? Mr. Manager, please.
I've already talked to the superintendent of police. We're going to be meeting with the management company to address these issues, and we'll come back with a report as to what we're going to be doing to bring the full power of the city to make sure it's much calmer up there.
Okay, in my opinion, there should be cameras, and they should have to pay for their security nights and weekends. Seriously, this is a drain on our resources. You hear that, Council? 500 and something calls. That's 1.5 a day. Okay, it's got to cease. So it's time we take some big steps against this tenement. Enough is enough. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the manager. Mr. Mayor, I spoke with a couple of residents from Westminster today at the trial court. There was an arraignment this afternoon there. And to reiterate Councilor Elliott's remarks, that all the personnel that were working on the property have all quit. They've basically been run out of there by a segment of the people that do live there. One suggestion that was brought up to me just by one of the residents was, is there a possibility of putting a small police precinct in the area, similar to what CVS had over on on Bridge Street, somewhere where they know there's a police officer there, especially in the nighttime hours. Again, that was just a suggestion from someone that has dealt with this problem for a number of years. So thank you.
Any for Council Leahy?
Just one other thing to add too, that, I don't know how the situation is now, but, after being up there a few years ago, that even just having the cockroaches all over the place. I mean, I don't know if that was a health code violation or what they were doing. I know they were spraying, but the place was infested when I was up there. And, now from getting the emails and talking to different people, it is out of hand. People are actually afraid to live there, so whatever we can do would be appreciated.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. One other suggestion: when the manager meets with the property management company, they may be able to take a unit offline and actually give it to a police officer, should a police officer want to actually live there on site. I know that Councilor Rourke mentioned the precinct. That's also a very good idea. But I know that we have a project-based building in Revere where we actually have a police officer that lives there and has the unmarked cruiser parked out front every night. So, again, just a suggestion when the manager meets with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? If not, we have a motion to refer this to the city manager for a report and recommendation.
So moved.
And seconded. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. That concludes the regular agenda. Are there any announcements? Councilor Marcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that on Saturday, November 26th, is the City of Lights Parade. It steps off, I believe, at 4:30. There's many things happening, beautiful things. Grand Marshal is Deb Belanger, so if everybody's invited to get in the holiday spirit.
Mr. Manager.
Yes, in order to allow the City of Lowell employees who work very hard to enjoy their Thanksgiving holidays, City Hall will close at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So the public should know we will be closed at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay, are there any other announcements?
That's nice.
Can the city manager call the mayor of Revere and...
Mr. Manager, can you do that? Motion adjourned by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All in favor, all opposed, stand adjourned.